Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Noy, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar, Leveraging Technology to Become a World-Class Function, based on the key findings from the NeuGroup's Principles of World-Class Treasury Management Systems project. On behalf of the NeuGroup, I want to thank all of you for joining us. Let me hand off to Tiffany Selby from Qualcomm and David DeGennaro from PwC. They will add their perspective on strategy to get you to the desired TMS end state. Tiffany is a senior treasury analyst with Qualcomm, the global wireless technology company based in San Diego, where she is responsible for global cash management, and as part of this, creating global standards and best practice controls around cash management infrastructure and supporting technology. She will be joined to speak to the strategy findings from our project by David DeGennaro from PwC, one of our project partners. David is a director of PwC's Advisory Corporate Treasury Solutions practice. He has over 20 years experience assisting global corporations and financial service organizations with treasury and risk management issues, including countless treasury technology solutions.
Thank you, Joseph, for the introduction and for sharing with us the key themes of the survey. In the next 10 minutes, we're going to discuss key factors that must be considered for a successful treasury technology strategy. And more importantly, we're going to hear from the practitioners' perspective on this topic from Tiffany Selby from Qualcomm. As mentioned earlier by Joseph, the survey data indicates that nearly 70% of the respondents do not consider their current state as their desired end state. Interesting, from the survey results, a conversation with the focus group, the following key factors were identified for a successful treasury technology strategy that can help the treasurers to achieve their desired end state. First, a clearly defined treasury future state vision. Successful strategy requires a clear definition of the mandate and roles of the treasury function within the organization to really effectively support the company in achieving its business objectives. So it's very important alignment of the vision with the company's objectives. Future state vision in turn drives the business requirements, which is the second element. Clearly defined and prioritized business requirements, a key element for a successful strategy. Requirements should be taken into account not just current but also anticipated business needs, so should be also forward-looking. As an example is, if the company's plan is to set up an in-house bank, obviously the business requirement should reflect the in-house bank requirements and capabilities. Additionally, also, it's very important to prioritize requirements to really identify the critical business requirements, the must-haves versus nice-to-have. This is important because it keeps focus on the strategy execution and also because it drives the business case, which is the third element. Having a solid, compelling business case is the key for a successful strategy. The business case will demonstrate the value of the initiative and also will be used to measure the success of the initiative itself. Company at the end must answer the question, have we achieved the benefits that we initially envisioned? Also too is, as Joseph mentioned, what company do, what is the trigger for companies from moving from the current state to the desired end state? Through conversation with the focus group and survey results, the following were identified as causes or triggers for changing strategy or the adoption of a new solution. One is the changing level of a complexity of the treasury operations, maybe due to an acquisition or international expansion, or just changes in the business model of the company. This is a recurring one, which is the satisfaction with the existing technology. Maybe it's limited reporting or integration or straight-to process. Changes in the IT strategy of the company. Maybe the company has decided to move from on-premise solution to a cloud-based solution, or from a traditional TMS to an ERP-based treasury solutions. Last but not least, changes in the regulatory requirements. So Tiffany, what were the key drivers for maybe changing technology strategies or adopting a new treasury technology solutions at your organization?
Well, Qualcomm has been in business for over 30 years, and initially, like many other growing companies, our treasury activities were smaller in scope at the beginning, but similarly, that didn't last for long. Eventually, as our company grew and the volume of activity increased, we identified an immediate need for a TMS implementation and chose a system that fit our needs at that time. This included scalability, accessibility, and integration, but not necessarily the most expensive solution. When we selected our system, we chose the option in the middle, a modular option that allowed us to implement partially and add functionality as our needs changed and as our company grew and as perceived risk for fraudulent activity increased. Our business continues to evolve and change and grow. For instance, last year brought new requirements that couldn't have been perceived 8 years ago when we first implemented our existing workstation. But finding a solution at that time that could meet the potential business changes in the future was essential for the success of our group.
Thank you, Tiffany. Interesting. I'm sorry. You mentioned scalability as one of the key factors that you consider at the organization. Even though, as Joseph mentioned, there was not one of the top 5 reasons for top drivers for moving to the desired end state. I agree with you, scalability is a key factor. Can you further elaborate on the role that scalability played within your organization?
Yeah, definitely. I think scalability is a huge factor. In my experience, you need to choose a system that meets your needs now, but also that allows you to grow as your needs evolve. Financial climates change often, as we've experienced. We implemented our workstation in 2008 before the financial crisis. New regulations and requirements as a result of that time were unforeseeable, so it's imperative to find a solution that can only change with your company, but with the inherent changes that occur outside your company. Treasurer should identify if there's a need to buy all functionality now, or a system that can build upon and grow with you. Some may prefer to implement in stages based on their current needs, but understanding what the system can provide in automation or enhancing your current processes is ideal in my opinion. That way you pay for what you can afford now, not only from a cost perspective, but a resource perspective as well. And add-on modules or enhancements as new fiscal year budgets are up for review, or when you add new functionality, or when you have more resources to focus on implementation. There is something to be said for building optionality in your structure so you can stay with what you have or scratch it down the road if needed. But I find little value in buying something that you know you'll have to throw away or redefine as climate changes. It's not an efficient use of your hard-earned budget resources and availability.
Thanks, Tiffany. As we mentioned before, we have identified the definition of a future state business requirement is a key for a successful technology strategy. And I believe it's 56% of the respondents indicated they're looking at the 2 to 5 year horizon when defining a future state requirement. Can you share with us your perspective about how you define the requirement, the time horizon, and also how frequently you evaluate those against existing technology?
Sure. I think in the past that horizon was longer, but as technology changes at a faster pace, that horizon is starting to tighten. However, planning a major change in your workstation every 2 to 5 years will be highly dependent on a few key factors. First, the success and duration of the initial implementation. I know from experience and speaking with others that sometimes it takes even that long to get to the end state or even a current state. The ability of the second is the ability of the vendor to keep pace with new functionality that supports Treasury's evolution. Third, the ability of the vendor to be competitive with their counterparts and to be holistic and deliver an end-to-end solution. I feel we're starting to see vendors becoming more competitive in that scope, so they're really coming to fruition on the items that they can deliver. And then finally, the resources Treasury maintains to evaluate, implement, test upgrades made available, or to contemplate an entirely new implementation altogether. in my experience, and actually something we actively do at Qualcomm, keeping up to date with our system's new releases and exploring previously unused functionality is key to maximizing the value of our current solution. Internal training and development is another key requirement in reaching your desired end state to ensure that relevant decisions are being addressed within the system and utilizing the system to its full capacity. Treasury and IT should work with current vendors to address gaps like bank account management and compliance or cash forecasting and reporting in their current state as part of an annual review, and in exploring other solutions that may address any persistent functionality gaps remaining. Only when the current solution no longer appears capable of supporting those needs, it's time to move on to the next state. Of course, this underscores the importance of defining the Treasury strategy and its desired end state before analyzing the enabling technology. Technology is here to help us and achieve our strategic goals, after all.
I want to take this opportunity to once more thank all our panelists for their time and sharing of insights today, and again to thank all of you for your time and attention this afternoon. And hopefully there were at least a few takeaways to make it worthwhile. I can't imagine that that's not the case, but we thank you for joining us and appreciate any feedback and follow-up. Thanks, everyone.